go. We're talking about dopamine, increasing conversions. We're getting into it right now. All right, so how do you increase conversions? Lots of people talking about it. Lots of people screw it up. We're going to go through one of Shane. Apologize, Shane. Don't know how to pronounce your last name all that well. I think it's Shane Puri. He and his partner Sam have a rather annoying podcast, something millions. Most of they get marketing wrong, but they've had some success. So feel free to spout off, fellas. Since Shane has offered to improve people's conversions, they have obliged with their landing pages. And there's some commonalities between most of the horrible landing pages. We're going to go through a few of them, but really conversions and marketing in general has three basic steps. First, you got to find the problem. Then you got to tell people about their problem in emotional words, and then you have to fix it. Now, in the marketing sense, you don't want to fix the problem. That could be telling them how to fix it, listing out the different ways they can fix it. The reason why is because of the way dopamine works in the brain. And so if you look at some of the best marketing in the world, it's for all of the cheesiest stuff that Sam and Shane love to make fun of, but they just don't understand it. It's actually the cheesy stuff is repeated in the world of venture capital and high finance. The high finance and venture capital world has simply convinced you that they're different. But there's no difference between the P.T. Barnums of the world and the A16Zs of the world. It's just A16Z, runs around talking about billions of dollars, and then we look down on P.T. Barnum. But the methodologies and techniques are exactly alike, which I find absolutely hilarious. And so hopefully you will now be able to harness this same methodology that's used by the P.T. Barnums of the world and the largest venture capital firms everywhere. Okay, so first of all, we are looking at Igor Momentum from Twitter. Now, Igor has a landing page that is about building a better product in public and growing your audience. So let's think about this for a moment. If you're reading that and you don't understand what it means, you could either, one, not be in Igor's market, or you could just be a regular human, right? So what am I saying? Whenever a person is reading something, their reticular activating system is constantly filtering to understand what to allow us to pay attention to. Now, that sounds kind of weird, but you have to realize that our brains are designed with a lot of machinery to cut out reality. I don't know about you, but in my office, I've got two computer screens sitting in front of me. You obviously can't see them because they're behind the camera lens. In back of me, I've got Star Wars photo autographed, which is awesome. Some little sayings that I like to look at. And then you can't really see it because of the glare, but I've got some of the Pittsburgh Steelers from when I was a kid. Now, if my brain were paying attention to that all the time, all of that would conjure up thoughts and memories. I've got the blue light in the background, the door to my right, I guess, screen right. I've got a whiteboard over there. I've got curtains in the background, all kinds of crap on my desk, on and on and on. So I need a mechanism by which to filter all of this stuff out. Even when I'm looking, actually I'm looking a little bit above the camera lens, but even as I'm looking at the camera, in my view, I've got stuff on this screen, stuff on that screen that's vying for my attention. Your prospects are going through this just like you are. On top of that, what compounds the problem is studies suggest that we've got about a quarter-sized circle that we actually look through the world with, at, through, right? So if you imagine your computer screen, there's a quarter-sized circle. If you put a quarter up on your screen, I don't have a quarter on my desk anymore. I used to actually have a quarter on my desk for this reason. And I would put it up on the screen and move it around to give me a better idea of how people were actually perceiving this thing that I had created. So all of that is going on when they look, Igor, at your landing page. The highest form of marketing is where every word will relate to something that the ideal client wants or aspires to, or something like that, something that they're seeking. Now, in dopamine language, what that means is their brain has something to grab a hold of and push their attention towards, right? That's the dopamine is the seeking hormone. I know we like to talk about it as, it's the pleasure and the dopamine hit. That is an aspect of it, but there's a lot more to that mechanism. I'm certainly not the expert. I rely on the Huberman podcast for that. Totally recommend it. So in this sense, let's say I'm in this particular market and I'm building in public. So I'm thinking about, how, if I'm building in public, my purpose for doing that is partially building an audience, right? I want more people to watch me building in public. Well, who are those people? Some people are going to be investors, right? Typically in this particular market, you're building something in public, which is going to be a company. It's usually a software product. And so I'm probably going to want investors, right? So these are people that are going to write me a big fat check so I can build a bigger company and we can all get filthy rich together. There's also going to be customers or prospective customers, right? So there's a couple of different audiences there. Fortunately, the interests overlap, right? Because you want your investors to see that your audience is growing, and you want a growing audience of raving fans that like, love, and use the product. But none of that is translated here, right? So what the public builder is not seeking is what's being explained there. Like, they're not really seeking growing their audience. Growing the audience is the mechanism by which the public builder gets what they want, which is money, ultimately, is probably fame, adulation, right? I wouldn't suggest going to the fame, the adulation, just stick to the money. So to improve conversions on this page, the mechanism that you have to go through is what they want, which is money. So relating the headline to the public builder making more money, or building the audience and making more money, right? So give them a couple of touchstones, is the way to go. So if we were building a headline like little Legos, let's talk about this in terms of formulas, right? There are certain formulas or way of speaking that will relate to an American speaker, right? So if you start off a sentence with how to, the English speaker knows what they're about to read relates to a set of instructions, right? So if you say how to double your sales, right? Anybody that's looking to increase their sales, the how to triggers the brain. Okay, let's increase some dopamine. There's, we need to seek here. So they're actually starting to pay attention. Then the phrase double your sales is going to appeal to anybody that's looking to increase their sales. Now there's some nuance to this, right? Because if you use what's called a dimensionalization, right? Meaning you're giving it heft and size and duration and time, but also scope in terms of how big something might be, how long it might take. That double number might be something that's not believable, right? So you might say how to increase your sales by 1,000%. People might look at that and be like, okay, not buying it. That's the nuance, right? Now we're getting into the art. We don't need to go too far down this road. And again, this is all in the sense of how do we actually increase conversions? Now, I would also suggest simplifying the entire look here. All right, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, call it 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. We've got about 23 or 24 things on this page. Now, one of the benefits of listening to a guy with gray on his face is we've seen lots of riddles in life. The secret to solving riddles, by the way, is exposure to riddles. It's not having a higher IQ. It's not being more intelligent. Of course, academics study everything. And when they studied riddle solving, they found that, hey, if you just look at more riddles, you get better at solving riddles. Years ago, when Google was still new, they actually had somebody emailing them with a single number. And that single number was the count of all the things on the Google page. And what that individual was saying to the product team was what I'm saying now. It's too distracting. And so Google in those days would test various numbers of things on the page, right? Because you have to remember, search engines used to be new. So when Google was trying to win in the search engine wars, right, you had Yahoo, which is absolutely ridiculous, way too much. It was like a portal page. It was just stupid. You had Alta Vista, which was kind of a middle ground. Like they kind of had a lot of stuff, but kind of not. And then you had Google, which was super minimalistic. Used to be there was a bit of a menu at the top. Then you had the search box. I don't know if they had I'm feeling lucky yet, but they tested all that stuff. And they found adoption of the search engine increased the fewer things they had on the page. If memory serves, once they started to get over 9, their I don't even know what to call him. The number dude would like urgently start to email them. But they found when they increased, I believe it was over 9, the use of the search box actually went down. So think about this for a minute. Google, one of the largest companies on the planet today, was focused on one thing. How do you get somebody to use the stupid search box? Why? Because if you use the search box, you find what you want, you're probably going to come back to Google. Now, I get it. Today, it's a verb now. Hey, can you Google this for me? But back in the very beginning, it wasn't a verb. It was just one of many competitors. So how did Google increase their conversion? By focusing on the one thing that the person wants. They want the result, and as a byproduct of the search, right? So the mechanism by which their customers got what they wanted was the search. Same thing's happening here. So if I'm searching for a way to make more money via building in public, my mechanism is I'm going to build something in public so that I can eventually get more money. Igor is facilitating that process, but you're only talking about the one piece, the building in public. You've got to give them also the thing that they want, right? Because they don't know you. They don't know, I can go through this mechanism to get what I want. We have to tell them that. Google never went so far. Actually, now that my brain just fed me, there was something on the page about search. I guess I could Google what the early search pages were, but I think you get what I'm talking about here. So Igor, you've got to put something about the cash, about investors. So that could either be how to as a framework. It could also be an if then. So if you're building in public and you want to double your investor pool, then you need our 10-step report, right? So that's a little bit longer kind of headline, but don't be afraid of that, right? People today talk about length of copy and, it needs to be short. That's not true at all. It needs to be relevant and interesting. If every word in a 26-word headline speaks to me as a person and my desire, I'm going to read all of it. It's not a simple equation. Okay, so Igor, increasing your conversions is going to be all into that. So let's continue. We're going to look at this guy here, Sachin, or maybe Sachin. I apologize, my friend. I don't know how to pronounce your name. All right, so we are looking at the NoteJoy app. First of all, there's a lot of stuff going on here. It kind of looks like we're looking at his email and then what it looks like in email, which is a horrible way to present that. But again, the problem here is if I'm looking at, I'm assuming this, is this an image? No, it's not. Let's see. Okay, whatever. All right. Well, so here's the landing page. Ah, I got it. Okay, so it was a link, not an image. Okay, fast and focused notes for you and your team. Okay, again, what does that mean? Now, somebody might say, well, I want them to discover, right? That's the landing page materials. I want them to start there and then discover. Got it? No problem. And I'm busy. I've got a lot of things to do. What you're selling me on with the headline is my next few seconds. Right? The job of a headline is not to make the sale. It's not like they read the headline, they're like, oh, dude, take my money. Although it could be, depends. Years ago, one of my marketing mentors, Gary Halbert, probably one of, if not the best marketer that's ever lived, would use an illustration that was a bit over the top, but it was effective. So he said, imagine you're in a party, you see the best looking woman you've ever, he would talk mostly to the guys, so ladies, I apologize. You see the best looking woman you've ever seen in your entire life. And throughout the night, you see guy after guy walking up to her and walking off with their head down. Finally, this dumpy looking guy in a wrinkled suit walks in, looks over at her, walks up to her, whispers something in her ear, and they walk out of the party together. What do you think he whispered in her ear? He would do this at a seminar. All kinds of stuff, the pickup artist guy would be like, oh, blah, blah, blah. Gary's example was, he said, no, what he did was he reached in his pocket, showed her a little white bag, and he said, hey, I've got some of the best smack in town. Want to go? Dramatic story, right? Because what did Gary illustrate there? He illustrated that, actually a lot of things. Number one, that this woman, in spite of her beauty, was just a broken individual, right? So it's like, you never know what people are going through. I'm telling you, Gary was just a master. I really miss that guy. He was also illustrating that the guys who had come up with their little sales pitch, they weren't offering what she really wanted, right? So the drug pusher recognized a customer. That's the illustration of what we're talking about, is our prospective clients are the pretty person, I'll use the generic language, at the party. Why? Because everybody is trying to get their attention, get their money, get them to leave the party with them. The more we can speak to what that person actually wants will increase our conversion or our chances of going to the next step. Now, what Gary also illustrated there is, it was really just the first step, right? So we also have to understand that a sales process is a process. Our page, this page, is not there to, bam, make the sale, right? It's there to further the sale, right? The idea of a one-call close is absolutely ridiculous. There's really no such thing as a one-call close, because you have to generate the lead, you've got to nurture the lead, you've got to schedule the call, and then you have to actually get on the call. So it's not a one call as if there's a single step. And then even on that call, if you are going to have somebody make a decision to buy on one phone call, you need to understand that entire process leads up to that point. And then on the call, that call needs to follow a very specific process, especially if you want the number of calls where that one call close actually happens increases. So as a quick side note, or let's say just a really very quick deep dive, one of the reasons why you can't have success with like hard closes, if you think of it that way, or one call closes, is because if your marketing tends to pull in people that are very amenable, or they don't really know how to say no, then you can get that hardcore closer just like, hey, you just need to make a decision. And they just hammer you and the person just kind of gives in. Okay, let's back out of the rabbit trail for a second. All right, so fast and focused notes for you and your team does not speak to why I might want fast and focused notes. So let's chunk up to maybe a higher, more strategic level. And I'm going to invoke Peter Thiel. I love invoking Peter Thiel because one of his tenets is that you shouldn't need to invoke somebody's name to express a good idea. And it's like I always say, sorry, Peter, but that's just how freaking people work. So what Peter Thiel talks about in 0 to 1, that conversation really funnels down, if you pardon the pun, funnels down this conversation into a very fine point. I don't know how old or how well developed NoteJoy is. My suggestion, though, would be to focus on using this image either product managers, lead product managers, or potentially data analytics people, and build a page specifically around that use case. Meaning, what are the problems that product managers have as it relates to notes? Is it sharing? Is it accessibility? Like they want their team to be able to access their notes. So the lead product manager feels that, if they're taking notes on something, the team needs to be able to see that. Is it kind of the amalgamation of that and its impact on the project, which really chunks up to the product manager's leadership, team building, promotional ability. So one way to like hit people over the head would be if you're a project manager and you're afraid you're going to get passed over for promotion again, you need our new note-taking app. And then that use case would talk about how that lead product manager could use the note-taking app to do better at their job and to actually get promoted. And that may be a use case, for example, where you walk that product manager through a day in their life. So you go in from meeting to meeting, you're taking notes about the project. You have an ever-expanding body of notes. Our note-taking app will automatically digest the notes for you and produce an outline so you can quickly deliver a recap of the day's events to all of the people you report to, which makes you look good, right? That's an expression of what we're talking about here. So increasing conversions isn't this one-step thing where you just like increase conversions, like a plop, it just drops out of the sky. You've got to think about all of this. Who are you selling to? What are their problems? And then what kind of emotions are we talking about? So continuing along these lines, if Adam, we'll say, is the lead product manager, so if he is concerned about not getting promoted, in your copy, in your articles, you need to use evocative language about not getting promoted, which means you have to talk about fear. You have to talk about uncertainty. You have to talk about anxiety. You have to actually use those words: fear, doubt, anxiety, and it needs to be related to their life, right? So fear about not getting promoted. And then the mechanism by which that fear is assuaged is through the note-taking app and the use of the note-taking app. And then in the conversion process, you would walk people through. You're in either your live demo or your demo you're walking people through. It would walk them through that emotional process. So the before and after would be, before running from meeting to meeting, scribbling notes on a piece of paper or on an iPad, or, maybe jotting them down on your iPhone. After it would be, here's our tablet where you're jotting the notes, the app on your phone, the app on your iPad. We coalesce all that in a real-time basis and then spit out this great outline because we're able to put all this together. I have no idea if the app actually does that. That actually sounds really freaking cool. So, hey, maybe that's a great idea if you guys don't do that. And of course, you could tie in AI and all that BS, to help produce that. Which, by the way, Loom should also do that, where I could just record notes or record meetings and it would automatically stitch this stuff together. Obviously, the AI would need some kind of keyword or some way to tie it together, but that way the engine would know to start to categorize things together, right? Because that's what we do as humans, right? Let's say we have these disparate meetings in both time and place. Our brain is going to start relating chunks back to a singular thing. I don't think AI can actually do that. But anyway, so Fast and focused notes needs to become something different. Hopefully that's clear to you by now. We're going to continue. Right. Keep forgetting links, not anymore. This is actually a really cool, I think, application. All right. So I don't know about you, but I've got a lot of tabs open. You maybe, hopefully you can't see them, but I've got 2 Chrome windows. I'm not even going to try and count them. But it's a lot. Let me see. Can I go to window, bring on the front? Is there a way to count the tabs? Anyway, let me not do that. I have a lot of tabs open. Now I've also got multiple desktops on my Mac with other Chrome windows for other stuff, right? So this is kind of my working window that you can't see. I've got another workspace, which is my writing, and then I've got another workspace, which is my recording. So that way, as I'm looking at something, I can be more focused. As a byproduct of that, I may be researching something, so going through links, and then I just lose them. Now, because of some of my past life, I actually set my history to clear itself, which is also, I need to fix that, but I've forgotten for like 5 years. So anyway, what I'm describing is all the stuff running in the background. But what's the emotional component of this? Frustration, maybe a little bit of anxiety, but I wouldn't use that as a big lever. It'd be more the frustration end of it. But you can also, like if you're going research, it would be related to speed. It'd be related to never finding that thing again. You can also relate it to speed in somebody's job, right? So again, going back to the prior example, find the specific use case. Let's say you're marketing to researchers. Researchers typically have to produce stuff on a deadline. And so if they spend a lot of time going through their history or sitting back, oh man, what was that web page? And trying to remember maybe a few words on it, a few words that were on the page, or maybe the subject matter, like they're spending all that brain power just to get back to that. It's like, I know that page had the information I needed and their brain can't call it. So what am I doing? I'm acting out what, as a marketer, you've got to put on the page. Now, obviously that may not translate into just a sentence, like a headline. That may need to translate into a process or even a video, but hopefully you can understand this is the magical process, if you will, of marketing. So starting with keep forgetting links, it's like, that's what we're talking about, but it's not the mechanism by which my brain will cause me to seek enough to engage with this. So let's now talk about the spectrum or the variety of people that are out there. There are some people that are so open to new experience that they will give us the benefit of the doubt, and they'll get just a glimmer, like, this is me. Keep forgetting links. My brain is so open to experience. I'm gonna be like, well, and I see link connect up in the corner, up, I don't know if you can follow my mouse pointer. In the top left corner, we've got link collect. We've got keep forgetting links, not anymore. I can zoom down here, product design, Golang resources, whatever the heck that is, front-end dev resources. And I'm going to come back up. Oh, a browser extension. What did I just do? Because remember, we're talking about increasing conversions. Don't lose me here. I'm a nonlinear thinker. What did I just illustrate? What I illustrated is that conversion is a non-linear process. Your reader is not going to just oblige you reading left to right, top to bottom in a Z format. Will they? Yes. But if you've ever watched somebody's eyes when they're on a page, I know they've got eye tracking studies. I've never seen one that actually mimics human behavior. Now, when I look at somebody's eyeball, when they're looking at the page, I know that my brain will tell me very precisely where they're looking. Now, I do see that the Z pattern exists, right? So English speakers will typically start top left, move to right. They'll go down at a slight angle. Sometimes they'll plunge down, move over. So it's not like an exact Z, but it's that general pattern. But when I look at their eyes, what I see is their eyes are jumping all over the place. Particularly when there are bright colors or a human face. So on this page, one of the problems with all of the busyness on the page is that there are a lot of things that are going to grab my eyeball just from like an evolutionary perspective, if you believe in that sort of thing. Right, so in the bottom corner, there's Robert Fox, right? There's a human face. Now remember, we've got the quarter, so my eyeball is going to start top left. It's going to look at link collect. It's going to go kind of to the middle. It's probably going to drop down, but then my peripheral is probably going to pick up at some point, especially if you have a large screen, Robert's face. That's where I might plunge down to Robert and then go left. Again, if I'm open to experience, then I'm going to go through this process. So if we break down conversion into its little pieces, what we're talking about are lots of buckets of people that vary in their openness to experience, which means they vary in their willingness to give you their time and attention, right? Their time to quote unquote figure it out. So the art form here is reducing the need for the person, me, to figure it out. That's really all this is. So I would first strip all of this crap off of the page. Do I need home feature pricing? Maybe if I'm driving traffic here because the friggin' platforms want me to have that mess. Do I need it from a conversion standpoint? No, you don't. I'm such a mad scientist. I tested, just like Google did, reducing the number of things on the page. This is called above the fold, right? What somebody will see on kind of the standard size of their screen. I forgot the name for it all of a sudden. And I eventually reduced it to 3. So I went up to 9 and 12. As I got higher in the number of actual elements on the page, the worse the page did. As I reduced it, the page did better. Now, interestingly enough, having 1 was too little. 2 was a bit of a middle ground, but it was like once I went from 2 to 3, it's like the conversion shot up through the roof. And by that, I mean 2 targeted traffic, it went to 9.5%. The key there is targeted traffic, which is what we're talking about here. So if this is a browser extension, that's probably something I need to talk about. Right, so first of all, which browser? Are we talking about Chrome, Opera, or Opera? I forget. I don't know. How do you pronounce that? Is it Firefox? Is it Internet Explorer? Or Edge, I guess now? Who are we talking to? You've got to call that out. And hopefully you have a mechanism by which you're detecting that. And I don't need to worry about that. You're just automatically showing me the appropriate page based on the browser I'm looking at the page through. So it would be, again, using a formula, if you use Chrome, this browser extension will, and then go into reducing the frustration. Again, targeted audience. Are you talking to a researcher? Are you talking to a student? Are you talking to an entrepreneur? Digging into that day in the life in your headline will expand the conversion conversation from just keep forgetting links, not anymore, which again, you're relying on my openness to experience to put you over the top. Okay, we're going to do one more before my brain gets too fatigued. Hey, Marvelous. The most stunning, stylish creator platform on earth. Make a course, make a membership, make a program, make a cohort, make a community, make a ruckus, make a mint, make your mark, blah, 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 blah. First of all, the picture's good because it encapsulates like the creator, right? I don't know. I'm a creator. If you're watching this, you're probably a creator. Isn't there something about being in that, your creation element where it just gives you like that kind of joy? So that picture shows me like this woman really enjoys what she's doing, which is a phenomenal example of a proper picture. So proper picture needs to evoke emotion. Right? So when I look at her, I'm thinking, yeah, man, I want to create something because I want the joy of creating. At the same time, you're competing with Thinkific, with Patreon, with doing a website, with doing nothing at all, which is putting stuff up on YouTube, putting stuff up on Instagram, putting stuff up on TikTok. It's like there's nothing on this page which tells me anything of importance. Now, again, if I'm open to experience, which I have to admit, most creators are going to be they're going to index high on openness to experience. You're probably going to get away with it. And your click-through rate is probably going to be high. Now, I probably shouldn't have said this at the end, but when most people talk about conversions, they're not talking about click-through rate. What they're talking about is money. Right. So going back to Shane, he posted this thing, hey, who wants me to improve their conversion rate? He probably mistakenly is thinking click-through rate, but that's not what people want. What people want is the money, right? So this, hey, marvelous. What you want is more people on the platform giving you money. You've got a pricing link on there, right? So I'm assuming, you don't hate money. What you've got to do is, like I've said now 3 times, narrow your use case. 0 to 1. What is the one creator who you want on the platform? And advertise to them. Is it somebody here? Like, I don't know if she's cooking because that looks like rosemary. So I don't know if she's like totally jazzed about having some fresh rosemary and she's about to put that into a chicken dish. Yeah, I'm a little bit hungry. Or I don't know if she's a gardener. Who knows? But figure that out. And be the platform, the creator platform for that creator only. Now, I know what you're thinking, but Maceo, we're going to miss out on this. We're going to miss out on that. Well, you're probably missing out on a crap load now because there's nothing special about this. There's nothing that calls to me when I'm thinking about, maybe I'm just going to keep posting to Instagram. Maybe I'm going to keep filling the blank. So another way to think about this would be not just creator, but maybe calling out, because this is a very mature market, dude. I mean, I don't know what you're thinking, man. I mean, this is hot and heavy competitive space, but I do get it because, you're probably bought into the BS that like there are a bazillion creators coming online. Personally, from a business standpoint, again, thinking through the conversion process, like as I'm building and scaling a business, I would also start to think about if I am going after just these like newbie kind of creators, it's like, how can I support their business to the point where they actually make money, right? So let's go beyond just thinking through, well, all I'm here to do is deliver the website. That's such short-term thinking. It's such Silicon Valley thinking, which is actually part of the reason why I can't really stand Shane and Sam, because they don't get that, right? The Silicon Valley is, let me build something, let me sell it to the greater fool, and I'm going to move on. I'm going to get rich, but whether I'm really adding value to their life doesn't matter. Now, I do have to admit, HubSpot kind of gets this right. Salesforce, y'all are just a bunch of crooks. I mean, yeah, you're a bazillion-dollar company, but if you've ever used that platform, like you want to slit your wrist. It's absolutely horrible. But because you've locked people into contracts, you have a reputation for being litigious, you kind of get away with it, right? So I'm talking about a higher thinking that I'm talking about a higher morality. I'm talking about, we all talk about, let's be the change, but give me a break. There's none of that. It's tied into also how much is enough, right? Because if all you're doing is chasing that $1 billion level, you start to give up some of this stuff with scale, right? So as your company gets bigger, you can't deliver on what I'm talking about. Like Salesforce can't deliver on what I'm talking about because the people that are investing in that company are going to be like, dude, I want my money. Why are you giving it up to help these people out? So again, we went down a rabbit hole. Let's pull back out. So conversion is also related to, well, how big do you want to scale? And what's some of the reality of that scaling process? If you want to get as big as Salesforce, you're going to give up some of this just by its nature. If you want to scale anything, you're going to give up some of this being what I'm talking about here, which, by the way, as a reminder, going back, is targeting a certain number, like these new creators, and then shepherding them with the resources so that they are successful. So that might be an educational component, that might be a coaching component, or mentorship component, right? Where they can avail themselves of resources. You obviously can't do it for them, but if you give them the resources in a format that's actually going to work and actually going to provide them with what they need, then you're going to be able to scale by the nature of those individuals sticking with you. And you're exchanging contracts for pain of disconnect. Now we have to have a conversation briefly about if you're increasing your conversion over time, which part of conversion might be getting the same amount of people to spend money with you more often. Pain of disconnect is one way to do that, right? So if in your creator community, you're giving them, once or twice a week coaching, that coaching provides you've got somebody like me in there who's actually like helping them to write copy. It's like, well, let's not do that. Let's test this. You're actually going into ad platforms and showing them, like step at a time. No, do this, don't do that. Okay. Let that run. Like they'll be able to show their Instagram, TikTok, whatever, with somebody that's good at that. It's like, well, you know what, your format in the first 30 seconds, try this. In the next 20 seconds, try that, right? So you're talking about somebody super skilled in understanding the way content needs to be planned out. So providing all of that in one place for one fee would be really painful to disconnect from, because then they'd have to either have to hire all of those people, or they would, meaning in-house, or they would have to contract to get that same kind of expertise. And so if you can put people on that are outsized, right? So if it would cost me, like to contract with me, it's going to be, $8-10 grand a month. If somebody's like, man, I can't afford that. But if you put me in one of these platforms, you could distribute that cost over X number of clients. And so that person may still be giving 10 grand a month, but they're giving that 10 grand but to them, they're like, oh man, I get this guy and that guy and that gal and this gal and that guy and this gal and that gal. Right. So they're thinking about it in a completely different equation. And then of course you can dole that out, right? You may say, okay, in the beginning, you really only need these few people. But as you grow, you'll have these people, right? So going all the way back to dopamine, you're telling them, look, as you grow, it automatically unlocks. You don't have to pay us any more money. But then once you go to the next tier, then you start paying us more money. And that has like sub tiers. Then we give you 1, 2, 3 step ups before you go to the next one. What am I doing there? I'm dimensionalizing this increase of revenue. Part of what I think we don't understand is that as people grow, like they do know that they need to go to another step up, but in their mind, it's too big of a step. Man, I'm gonna have to jump to get there. And we're saying, no, you don't have to jump. Like we're going to give you like these little stepping stones. So yeah, the step is this big, but we go bump, bump, bump. And then look, you're at that new level. This goes all the way back to understanding who it is you're talking to. The person who's just starting out creating can just get a phone and put stuff up on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. They may not even believe that they need this whole thing, because like make a course, make a membership. Well, first of all, you lead with make a course. So you're really marketing specifically to course creators. And then you make a membership. So it's like, not only do I need a course, I need a membership, and then I need a program, then I need a cohort. Well, what the hell is a cohort? And then I need a community. Well, it's like, hold on a minute. I have a community on IG. I have a community on TikTok. You know what? I don't need these guys. All right. So just the way this is presenting the information gives me more ammunition to jump off the page, even if I'm open to experience. Right, so I could be massively open to experience. I could be massively willing to put time and attention into this page. But as I run into those words, my brain is going through fight or flight. And so we've got all these different mechanisms in our brain to help protect us. And so if you dump me into flight mode because I see something, it's like, you know what? There's flights like course, I'm not so sure. Membership, I'm backing up. Make a program, not so sure. Core, you know what? I've already got a community. You know what? I got this handled. Boom, and I'm gone. It's an example of what I'm talking about here. So if, on the other hand, I take a stand and I say, I'm looking for somebody. You could actually have course creators, membership creators, program creators, cohort creators, community creators as 5 different markets that you're going to, which means you need 5 different landing pages. That's not a bad thing. And then your words would relate to that. So if it'd be course, obviously then the most stunning stylish creator platform is irrelevant. It would be, again, going back to a formula, if you're a course creator, then fill in the blank. How to create a course that how to create and sell a course and make $10,000 a month within your first 90 days. Again, formulaic. It's thinking through, what words do I put together so that as somebody's brain reads it, the reticular activating system keeps telling them, yes, this is what you want. The dopamine process continues. Okay, seek, seek, seek. And we don't trigger the fight or flight response. Now, granted, my formula may not work in the sense that it might be over the top. It might be too little, too much. You know what I mean? That's the testing and that's the art. But the methodology holds firm for increasing conversions. Okay, I'm going to leave it there. Hopefully you like this. If you did, you know how to get a hold of me.